The ASI Best Sommelier in the World contest is the toughest and the most prestigious sommelier competition. Each national association selects a candidate, and the current continental champion are also entitled to participate. Any one of you can enter if you're prepared to study and work to win your national selection. And I hope this tutorial video will help you and inspire you to take part. Here we are, the Best Sommelier in the World competition. The competition takes place in 3 stages: first round, semi-final and final. This is the first test of the first round. You have to do a blind testing, a written blind testing of 2 wines in 20 minutes. So, the very first task is a blind testing of 2 wines, a white wine and a red wine. And here what the judges are looking for is a description, a well-documented description of the appearance, the nose and the palate of the wine, and of course that the candidate gives a great conclusion in terms of food and wine combination, in terms of capability to age of the wine, temperature of service, and so on, if the wine needs to be decanted or not. And of course, identification of the wine as closely as possible. Grape, country, region, vintage. And all that will be used by the judges to give a mark. They have 20 minutes, 10 minutes per wine. The candidate needs to write very well, but the judges are capable to read their answer, and that's very important because sometimes under stress, the candidate can write very quickly, and then it's very difficult for the judge to read the answer, so very, very important. In an exercise like that, it's very important that the candidate avoid to go off track. The good candidates have a great methodology, so for each wine they start by the same way in order not to avoid. Sometimes a candidate can avoid for one wine to refer to the acidity, to the alcohol, to the tannin if it's a red wine and so on. So if you forget to mention one of these aspects, then of course you're missing some point. We are not expecting someone to give us the name of the chateau or the estate, but we are looking for if it's what type of grape or if it's a blend of grape. The competition is made of 3 main types of exercises. You have, of course, blind testing of wine or beverages. The second main task is the written theory, where people are asked to answer questions. And the third part is the practical service, like in a restaurant, and of course, food and wine matches. Now, you are moving to the second task of the first round, which is the identification of beverages. The second test of the first round was a blind testing of 4 spirits, but it wasn't a blind testing where the candidates had to describe the spirit, they simply had to identify them. They had 4 minutes and the spirits were served in black glasses, which of course make it more difficult because you cannot use the color of the spirit to think if it's a brown spirit or a white spirit. So you're really using the aroma of the spirit and of course testing the spirit. We had a rum, a vodka, a tequila and a gin. So what we were looking for here, no description, but of course accurate identification of the type of product and maybe the main component of the product, the base element. So on the blind testing identification of spirit, let's not forget we are at the first round. We have 60 candidates and we weren't trying to trick the candidate. We just wanted to see who are the candidates who can recognize some classic family of spirit. Now you're moving to the written questionnaire and you will have an hour and a half for roughly 60 questions. And of course, you can do it in 3 languages, English, French, or Spanish, but you cannot do it in your own language, your native language, you cannot. The third test of the first round was the written questionnaire. And this is a very important test in the first round because there are a lot of points to gain. The candidates have an hour and a half to complete that task. There are a lot of questions, 60 questions, but even many questions at sub-questions. There will be questions on viticulture, winemaking, obviously grape synonym. There would be map, where the candidate will have to position certain region. They would be asked to name certain estate, maybe give a second wine of famous chateau in Bordeaux. They will have to, of course, say if certain spirit where they come from and what is the base of the spirit. Also some cocktail, give a recipe of some cocktail. They will have also to give the country of certain beer, question on coffee, chocolate, sake. So a lot of variation within the question, a lot of technical aspect, a wide knowledge is expected from the candidate. And I think that the candidate need to be very organized. They need to not spend too much time on just one question because they could find themselves running out of time. It's a long questionnaire, an hour and a half is enough time but not too much time, so they really need to be focused. This is where they can really make a big difference. But let me tell you, no one, if you do 70%, you've done extremely well because it's such a vast questionnaire and it's impossible to know everything. So, very difficult test. But again, a lot of very talented candidates in this competition and many of the favorites did extremely well. Now, when the copy are collected and the judges start marking, of course it's going to take a long time. You can very quickly, the judges will see which of the candidates have done a lot of work, are well prepared, because the top candidate will be very consistent. And if the questionnaire is 30 or 40 pages, then almost in every page, the good candidate will have answered quite a lot of the question correctly. It's a very, very important test for the people who hope to carry on to the semi-final. You are moving on to the last test of the first round. This is a very short and challenging exercise. You might find yourself in a very unexpected situation. So be careful and best of luck. So this is a practical test of the first round. Candidates come one by one. They have a table of 2 to serve a bottle of champagne. They have on the service table a vase with several bottles of champagne within the vase, but only one is the real champagne they've been asked to serve. So the first thing is to identify correctly the champagne that the host has requested. They have, of course, all they need to serve the champagne, glasses, a small plate to put the cork, different tray, a guéridon. And so, as you can see here, Arvid is first putting the glasses of champagne on the table, collecting some glasses, and that was a trap we had left on the table some glasses who had previously contained some champagne or some wine, so they went clean. Here you see Arvid, who has presented the bottle to the host, opening his champagne. A lot of elegance been done. Now he's going to test the champagne, turn away from the two customers, and take the little plate, show the cork, and he's going to pour a little amount for the host to test the champagne. And you can see very quick, Arvid is already to the guest of the host, serving the champagne and finishing with the host. So it's been done very quickly, very properly. The bottle has been, the right champagne has been served. The dirty glasses have been eliminated. So all what we were looking for has been achieved. To be part of the best sommelier in the world competition is extremely enjoyable, but to progress to the semi-finals is fantastic. To take part in the semi-final, you need to be one of the top 15 candidates of the first round. The points are accumulated from the written questionnaire, the written blind testing, and the service test. For a semi-final, you will be tested on service, general knowledge, and blind testing, but the level of difficulty will rise dramatically. For the first test of a semi-final, you will have to identify 6 beverages in a written test. Best of luck. The beverages were a beer, a cider, a sake, an aquavit, pisco, and a whiskey. Again, the beverages were served in black glasses. It was a written test, and the candidate had 3 minutes, and for each beverages, 5 points were awarded. They don't have time to describe, so we are looking for, they can find the family, the type of product is where they are going to get the mark. All the tasks of the competition are prepared by the technical committee, and only the members of the technical committee know about the task. Great care is taken that no information could leak outside, as of course that could advantage a candidate. Now, you are going to do the second test of the semi-final, the written questionnaire. So we ask them some questions we require more thinking, capable to develop, explain certain technique in the vineyard, in the winery, also some food and wine combination and so on. So really the job of a sommelier. There are also some questions within this questionnaire which are classic questions for sommelier competition about region, about different products. It's a slightly different type of questionnaire, and of course the level of question more difficult than in the first round. Now, for the different practical tests of a semi-final, you will go one by one from task to task without any break. The first practical test will be an oral blind testing of 2 wines. They need to describe the wine, so the appearance, the nose, palate. That's very important, is they do it without forgetting all the important aspects for each wine. We are looking is that the candidate does a great organoleptic description, very complete. Of course, propose some suggestion of food and wine. And then, of course, a fairly important part of the mark is the identification. Now, for the following test, it will be a classic food and wine combination. And you will have to argument for the best possible combination. And of course, to meet the customer preferences, like in your own restaurant. We were expecting that most candidates would say the white wine, but it didn't matter. Whatever wine the candidates select, we had the second part of the task was to say, actually, my guest would like the other wine. Because what we wanted to see is, like in a restaurant, the sommelier is sometimes confronted with customers who don't always have very classic taste. Then that he was able to come with an argument why, after all, the wine would go as well. We had obviously on purpose selected a fairly light style of red wine, not too very tannic, but it could go with the dish. But we wanted to see the ability of the candidate to come with a good reasoning. But we were judging the appearance, the way the candidate expressed, the friendliness, you know, how he deal with the customer, how he listen to the request of the guest. Like in a restaurant where you expect your sommelier to be very open, to be very friendly, welcoming, and to be attentive to what really the guests want. Now, as you are going through a series of tasks, it is very important that you keep total focus and great energy. Because remember, only 3 candidates will go through to the final. And every task is important. The next task is a recommendation of a port by the glass and the commercial testing of a fortified wine. We had something, again, a bit different, but we are always trying to reproduce restaurant situations. So what we were looking for is, of course, the flexibility of the sommelier. And in a case like that, maybe the sommelier, of course, want to please his customer, is going to open one port. He will be left with a lot of port in the bottle, but if he's a good sommelier, he will use it maybe for a tasting menu, he will propose it to other guests. So in theory, he should be able to finish the bottle within a few days. A sommelier is also a salesman, a businessman, so he has a feel for that. And the semi-finalists, a lot of them did extremely well there. Now, as the task changed from competition to competition, you might wonder why you're watching this tutorial. Well, I can tell you, as a past candidate, we never know enough. And in addition, it will give you an idea of the philosophy of the technical committee. The next task is a commercial wine testing. By telling the candidate to serve the fortified wine in the best possible way, we were expecting them to test the fortified wine, say a few words of description, to serve it in the right glass, and to give to the guests some melon and some blue cheese. And if the sommelier, the candidate, and some candidate did exactly that, then of course they were scoring a lot of points. In addition, of course, like for every service task, we expect manners, friendliness, politeness, being quick, without rushing the customer, but to be very efficient, very organized, checking that the glasses are clean, and so on and so on. So we wanted to see the whole. So in fact, this task was very difficult because it was testing each candidate on many, many points. For this ultimate test of the semi-final, we've introduced a new type of exercise. So, you will be asked to show your ability as an organizer of event, but also your skill as a marketer.
An international club of wine lovers arrive in Mendoza next Saturday. It's their first time in Argentina. They are 30 people, men and women, aged around 40. I heard they have already talked with several restaurants for an evening about wine from Argentina. We must have them here. I count on you to make an appealing proposal. You have 5 minutes for this task.
What we were expecting from the sommelier is to be imaginative, but to be also very business-minded. So which means that they were thinking of a budget. And when we saw Paz there, Paz really thought of a business. He thought of maybe getting a bit of sponsoring from a winery in order to reduce the cost, but make it attractive for the guests and also good event financially for the restaurant. So we were judging the business skill of the sommelier, which is very important. It's not just a question of being, capable to serve a bottle well. It's also capable to think ahead and to be capable to organize like a head sommelier should be. For the final, each candidate draw a number, and this number will determine the order he or she will compete in the final. During the performance of one finalist, the other two finalists are kept in total isolation. They cannot see or they cannot hear what's happened on stage. For these two candidates, there are very special moments, and each candidate has his own way to prepare and concentrate before they are called on stage. The final usually takes place in a theater. The stage is set up like a restaurant with different tables, and at each table there is a different task. It is in front of an audience, and in Mendoza there were more than 800 spectators. Therefore, it is a lot of pressure. Now let's move to the first task. So we are now in the final, the very first table. The candidate will start to serve aperitif, and in that table there were a few challenges, I would say. First, they were asked to serve a bottle of champagne extra brut, and they had at their disposal in the Basque a few bottles, but none of them were clearly written extra brut on the label. So they had to find at the back on the label the amount of dosage, and one of them, Grand Vintage, was in fact an extra brut because he had not too much dosage. So they needed to explain that to the guest. So what really it meant that of all the bottles were on the service station, the sommelier had to be very careful, look at the label, and then show to the host the bottle and explain that even though it wasn't written extra brut, it was an extra brut. Voilà. And in that instance, you can see Julie Dupuis, extremely professional, has very carefully look at the back label, explain to the host. Also, at that table, so service of a bottle of champagne, as mentioned, but an extra difficulty, one of the guests didn't drink champagne, but in fact wanted a martini cocktail. You can see in that Julie asked the permission to try the champagne. She's trying the champagne, and having opened the bottle of champagne, she now can prepare. But she hasn't served the champagne, which is good, because now she's going to prepare the martini cocktail. We expect a sommelier. A sommelier is not like he's not a bartender, but he should know cocktail, and at least the classic, Negroni, obviously Martini, and so on, Margherita, quite a few classic, maybe 30, 50 classic, and be able to do them. A bit like a chef, might not be the greatest pastry chef in the world, but a good chef should know about pastry. Well, I think a good sommelier should know about the bar, should know the main product, of course, and should know how to do cocktail. It's a very interesting thing. So you can see here we have the demonstration of Julie, who is preparing the martini cocktail. Martini cocktail is stirred, not shaken. However, often it's wise to ask the guest if they want their martini stirred or shaken, because James Bond likes them shaken, so time is a bit confusing. So she's preparing Martini cocktail. Martini cocktail made with gin, but also a lot of people like it with vodka, so should be asked, would you like your Martini cocktail with gin or vodka? And also, in terms of garnish, often the Martini cocktail be with a lemon twist or an olive, and really it's professional to ask, would you like it with a twist or with an olive? So she's stirring the, preparing. She had put some ice in the cocktail glass to keep it cool, and now throw away the ice and pour the cocktail. Going to put the garnish. Extremely well organized, but as you will notice, very professional. She doesn't serve the cocktail yet because one of the guests is a lady, and this lady is having champagne, so she's going to make the host test the champagne. Voilà. The host telling her that the champagne is in perfect condition. She can now serve the lady. Voilà. The other guest who is having champagne is going to have his glass filled. Voilà. And so professional, so professional. She doesn't serve the host yet because his guest is having a cocktail. So she's now serving the cocktail she had prepared. So no wait. Perfect. And of course, she now come back and top up the glass of the host. So absolutely brilliant, magnificent, perfect order, so well organized, didn't wait. You know, everything was served as it should be. And she's now asking them few details. She's done all the essential, everything in the right order to perfection. And she's now talking to this table. As you can see, that was absolutely a textbook performance from Julie. Right order, right glasses, superb organization, brilliantly executed. That's it should be shown to many sommeliers how perfect it was. Bravo. You're halfway through the final. Your energy level is starting to diminish. There is no time to slow down. Keep focused and concentrated on your performance. There are still a lot of points to be gained in this final. We are now at the second table, the food and wine exercise. In that task, a slight difference from normal. Instead, to give them a menu and to ask them to match the menu with some wine of their choice, we proposed to the sommelier some wine. There was, however, a small trap. One of the wine didn't exist. It was a Ponceau 1945. This is a wine which been in the news because of Monsieur Ponceau that the famous fraudster Rudy Kerniavon was caught. And so a lot of wine magazine, website had spoken about it in the last 2 or 3 years, so we were expecting the sommeliers to know about it. That was a question. 6 wine, one is a fake wine, and we asked the sommelier to do a food and wine combination. The judges were expecting, of course, as you would want, a very professional sommelier who would describe the wine very well, would know about these wine because they are all iconic wine, would match the wine in, first of all, decide the order of the wine in terms of, their lightness, their body, and so on. So to try to think the best possible order of the wine, and then find some interesting dishes to match each wine. And if you want to do some extra, then why not? You might get extra mark or you might not, but you won't waste mark by proposing some ideas. So in that case, he suggests a champagne. The worst thing could happen is the judges say, no, thank you, we want to go to the wine straight away. He wouldn't have lost any mark anyway. So to be imaginative, but the important thing, of course, is to do what you require first, which is, make sure within 6 minutes you've found a great menu, great order, and also alluded to the fact that one of the wine wasn't a real wine. And that's certainly not as easy as it looks, but Arvid did very well. A sommelier must know not just about food and wine, but also about coffee. Let's watch our next task. Just after the food and wine, we also had a small task concerning coffee, and the idea was for them to suggest coffee and also to combine the coffee with either a spirit or liquor, because of course that's one of the job of a sommelier at the end of the meal, to suggest tea, coffee, and also digestive. So really that was a short task, but complementary to the task of food and wine. And the sommelier did very well on that task. For each task, every detail, every word, every move the candidate makes is analyzed by the judges. Now let's watch the table with the service of wine. Now we move to the table for the service of wine. It was quite a difficult table because there were 6 people at this table. They had to serve a magnum of red wine and decant it, asked by the host, and that was what they were told straight away. So, of course, in a case like that, they have to be well organized, making sure their guéridon is prepared, check the cleanliness of the glasses, put the glasses on the table, and because in that instance the magnum was standing up, they didn't have to use a basket, because if they use the basket, we mean that they are going to put the bottle horizontal and disturb the sediment. So they needed to tell the host and start. But in that task, there was a little trick. When they were serving the second guest, at that moment, the host say, "Oh, by the way, one of my guests," and pointed out the gentleman, doesn't drink red wine. He would like a glass of white wine. And on the service table there was a box bottle, so classic bottle from the Franken region. We were expecting the sommelier to, of course, delighted, serve the magnum to the people who were drinking red wine, but not finishing to pour the host, because again his guests should be served first. So come back, serve some white wine to the person who was going to have white wine, explain and describe the wine, and then finish with the host the red wine, as the host was having red wine like his guest, except the person who was having white wine. So a lot of points to be marked in terms of the organization. The judges wanted to see a sommelier who is well organized, professional. It had to be fairly quick, because there were a lot of aspects to be done during this performance, and really pour the wine properly, not too much, enough, right order. Decanting the magnum, pouring the magnum, pouring some white wine to the person who was having a glass of white wine, finishing with the host for the red wine, describing well the wine, and all that, in a professional manner. So, require for the candidate to be organized, precise, quick, but without showing the guests you're rushing them. So it's all the little point of elegance, finesse, but very professional. The table is served in time, and all what is being asked has been done. We are now going to move to the series of blind testing. And for the blind testing, it's very important that not only you identify as much as you can the wine, but you're also extremely precise with your vocabulary. The candidates are now moving to the oral blind tasting, and for, this year we did a series of blind tasting. So we had first of all 3 white wine, 2 pear and 1 white wine, and they weren't asked to describe because of course we only had a very short time. What we wanted from them is the identification of the grape and tell us as much as they could in terms of the identification of each wine. So the sommelier for that task needs to be very organized. He still has 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so he must take his time, doesn't want to jump too quickly to a conclusion. Take his time to compare the 3 wine and then what the judges are expecting as they come with the identification of the wine. So that was one task. Second task of the blind tasting was a classic organoleptic description, so full description of the wine and identification of the wine. The third task, for the organoleptic of the second task was a white wine. Then for the third blind tasting, we had again 3 wine, no description, 3 red wine. We gave them a bit more time. Some of them were very classic red wine, so red wine normally require a bit more time, so it's why we gave them an extra minute compared to the very first blind tasting where they had just 3 white wine. The fourth one was a full organoleptic description of a fortified wine, and then when they had done that, we gave them a commercial exercise where we asked them that a customer was thinking to use this wine for 50 people for a function, and we wanted them to sell the wine to the customer and really make them dream. So that was the task, and that we wanted them to be very positive, to be, coming with great reason why we should select this wine and make us really want to drink this wine and buy it and select this wine for the function. And now the next task is the identification of beverages. After the different series of blind tasting, of wine blind tasting, the candidates had to identify 8 spirits. But this time we did it slightly differently. Instead to just give them 8 glasses and they have to identify, we gave them 8 glasses, but we also gave them a list. In fact, it was a piece of paper with a different label, so in effect they knew the spirit, but of course they had to find which one was match the list. So it was a question of looking at the list and then testing and saying, oh, I see they propose a rum, a whiskey, and so on. And so it was a bit easier, but still you have to be organized because it's easy to start giving once you match the wrong one, then you have to come back. So it was a question to 3 minutes. The candidate really to be organized, smell all the glasses first, take their time, and when they were sure of one, say number 3 is this one, eliminate, and so on. So it's a question to be very, very organized, precise. Don't rush. Look at the labels, and of course some were relatively straightforward because different colors of spirit. Nevertheless, not as easy as it looks, but I think the candidates did a great performance. As a sommelier, your job is to buy, select, and write the wine list of your restaurant. It is therefore very important that this wine list has no mistake. This is what we are going to see in the next task. One of the tasks always proposed in a final is the correction of the wine list, because of course for a sommelier it is very important. The sommelier of a restaurant will write the wine list, and the wine list should be written properly without any spelling mistake, and of course mistake of associating a wine in a different region and so on. It needs to be very precise and exact. So for this exercise, we normally propose 8 slides. So 8 slides. Each slide has 3 wines, and there is always a mistake. So 1 mistake per slide. We expect the candidate to point out the mistake and to tell us what the mistake is. It's not enough to just say wine number 2 is not correct. It's important that they explain that maybe it could be the wrong region, it could be the wrong, this wine has never been made because in that vintage the producer didn't make that cuvée. It could be something to do that is not out yet because maybe this wine will only be released in 2 years' time and so on. So the sommelier has to think of all the different type of mistake could be. Could be, say, wrong country, so one wine is not made in that country or that region. It could be a mistake of associating a cuvée from one producer with another producer. It could be that the vintage, or it could be sometimes that a wine is in the wrong section. Example, we clearly tell them sparkling wine and we give free wine. We tell them white wine, we give free wine. But it could be that the wine is in fact a red wine, not a white wine. So when the sommelier reads horizontally the wine, he might not see any mistake because the wine is actually exists, is properly in that region, in that country, right vintage and so on. But if suddenly he realizes that it shouldn't be in that section, he should also tell it. So it's quite tricky, always looks very easy, but believe me, it's a very, very difficult exercise. You only have 30 seconds. And then another slide arrives, so it is a very difficult exercise. Now, I don't want to add any more pressure on you, but amongst the judges, there are several best sommeliers in the world. And now, a kind of reality TV. It should be an easy task, but what's not so easy is to recognize in a very short time the different wine personality, wine estate, and wine utensil. So, let's go and play the wine quiz. So now we arrive to almost the end of the competition, and the last 2 tasks of the competition we try to make them very public, friendly, so there's a bit of interaction. And what we do, we get the 3 candidates, the 3 finalists together. They are not close to each other, separated. We give them something to write, but it's very important that the audience participate. So there will be 10 pictures and showed on screen. The sommelier, the 3 sommelier, there is some small screen on the stage. They can watch that. They don't have to turn and watch the big screen. So they can also see what is proposed. And it will be a picture of a wine personality, a wine estate, a wine instrument. And we experiment, they have 15 seconds, so it's time. They cannot write before the start of the picture. The picture is shown, they have 15 seconds to write the name of the personality, of the estate, of the instrument. When we say stop, they must stop writing, so only 15 seconds per and they then must turn their board and show what they've written to the audience. One of the judges come and mark what has been written, so to see if they got it right or got it wrong. And then when the candidates are ready, we move to the next pictures and so on and so on. So it's very fun, the audience can play, and for the candidate, well, you know, they have to be again, look for a few seconds and quickly write, because once we say stop, they cannot write anymore. So if they know what is on the picture but they didn't have the time to write, then they lose the mark. So What we tend normally to put is some very famous iconic estate who are very recognizable because, you know, they are some of the most famous, so with the special look of the winery, personality, like we see people like Michel Rolland, Jancis Robinson, whoever, great winemakers. We try to choose people who are known all over the world, of course. You cannot put a personality who would be known only in one country, so you need to be people who have an international aura. We also try to put sometimes a sommelier. So a sommelier, maybe, of course, not a sommelier who is during the competition like one of the best sommeliers in the world. So maybe we choose somebody who hasn't come or somebody. And then, so it's important that the people who are going to be world champion, they know the famous iconic winery, the famous wine personality, and also sometimes some very strange wine instrument. So it's a bit of fun, but under the aspect of fun, very serious nevertheless.
Why is it important to a sommelier to know about the wine?
Well, it's important that the sommelier know personality estate, because in a restaurant he'll be confronted with guests who might ask him some question about this wine personality, the wine estate and so on. So the sommelier needs to have a wide culture of wine, and so that's very important. And now the grand finale, the service of the Magnum of Champagne. For your last act, you need to be very organized, precise, efficient, and very fast. The audience loves it. So the grand finale is a service of a Magnum of Champagne. We give them a time, 7 minutes, and we tell them they have to pour 15 glasses. They have a mise en place, but the trick this year is we put 28 glasses, 15 of one size and 13 of different size. And they were slightly mixed, the glasses, obviously the same for the three candidates. We had done the same exact mise en place. So the finalists had to find the 15 right glasses, which is already one of the tasks. Then, once they put these 15 glasses, they have to pour, and the trick is to pour the whole Magnum. We want them to finish the Magnum. So if there is a little bit of left, say very little, obviously they don't get penalized, but if we put one extra glass for us, for the judges, with a line, and we come at the end and we pour the remaining of the Magnum, and if it goes above the line, then they get penalized. They also need to have filled. We don't want the opposite, like for instance, they pour too much in 13 glasses and they cannot pour in the last 2 glasses. So it's very important that they do 15 glasses. We also want them to do roughly at the same level and, as I said, finish the Magnum. The difficulty is they cannot come back onto a glass. So if they are pouring, say, glass number 2, and they move to glass number 3 and they start pouring some champagne in glass number 3, they finish. They cannot come back to the first 2 glasses, they have to carry on. It's the rule, because if not, it would be too easy, they could adjust, they could, so we want. And why this exercise is important? Because in a restaurant, if you have a customer who say order a bottle for 9 people, you order a very expensive bottle of champagne, then the sommelier has to understand that is going to pour maybe just a small amount in each glass, but he wants to make sure every guest has some champagne. You cannot come back to the host and say, well, I'm terribly sorry, I could only do 7 glasses, because the host will say, well, I don't want to buy another bottle. So obviously, if the host asks something a bit stupid, like 15 glasses with 1 bottle, then of course you have to tell him, well, shall we prepare 2 bottles? But in a restaurant, the sommelier is there too. And sometimes you have to understand that maybe the guests just want a very small amount because they want to celebrate something. It's just, so it's why this exercise is important. So we want to see the finalists to be well organized, to respect the fact that each guest should have roughly the same amount, the Magnum should be finished, and all that in time. And of course, it's a bit of a show for the audience, and at the end, we ask the sommelier normally, once the competition is finished, was not part of the competition, but to come and give some champagne to the audience. So, one little advice, if you're in the audience, always sit at the front because you might get a glass of champagne.